The crumbling monastery of Saint Severin, nestled among the shadowed hills of southern France, had long since fallen into ruin. Locals avoided it. Some whispered it was cursed, others that no prayers had been heard there since the Black Death. But to Dr. Gabriel Thorne, world-renowned theologian and historical linguist, the decaying structure was a forgotten vein in the body of the church, a place where lost history bled through the cracks of stone. Gabriel wasn't just searching for relics. He was chasing the echo of a rumor, a hidden chapel sealed since the 14th century, said to contain a chalice that remembers blood. Most dismissed it as medieval superstition, but Gabriel had found references to it in 3 separate papal correspondences, each redacted in modern archives. He entered the chapel alone. Dust thickened the air like ash. At the back of the altar, behind a collapsed arch, Gabriel noticed something odd, the faint outline of a sealed bricked-up wall. He worked for hours, hands bloodied, chiseling through the centuries. Behind the final stone, in a hollow niche carved from onyx, it waited. An ancient chalice, jet black with crimson veins running through its stem, nestled in velvet that had long since rotted away. It was dry, not a trace of wine, not even a drop of condensation. He lifted it, whispering the old Latin prayer of sanctification. And then a single drop of blood fell from the lip. It was fresh, warm. Gabriel stumbled backward, his rational mind unraveling as the impossible solidified in his hands. He sealed the chalice in a case and left the chapel with his heartbeat thundering in his ears. By the time he reached the Pontifical Institute in Rome, he was already being watched. Within hours of logging the artifact into the private archives, he was summoned to the Apostolic Palace, not for academic celebration, but for interrogation. He was met by Cardinal Vittorio Aldani, a man whose voice was as soft as incense smoke and twice as smothering. "The chalice," Aldani said, "is a relic that does not exist. It was never made, never touched, and never brought to this city." Gabriel blinked. It bled. "Then you are already cursed," the cardinal whispered. Gabriel pressed him. "Onagga, the simple cup frightened the church." Aldani leaned in. "Because some truths," he said slowly, "a damn more than lies." That night, Gabriel couldn't sleep. He returned to his quarters in the Vatican guest residence, the chalice locked in a vault beneath the floorboards. Yet something felt off. Cold, still, watched. As he turned toward the window, he saw her, a nun in white, standing in his room, silent, pale, her veil fluttering, though there was no wind. "Who are you?" he asked, backing away. She said nothing, just stepped closer. Her eyes glinted silver in the candlelight. Then she whispered, "The blood calls you, Gabriel Thorne." He didn't move fast enough. Her fingers were like ice on his throat. Her lips grazed his neck, not in seduction, but in ritual. When her teeth pierced his skin, he felt memory, not pain. Images flashed through him, cathedrals drowned in flame, a circle of angels weeping blood, a boy's voice reciting a forgotten language from a coffin. And then she was gone. The only proof she'd been there was the blood on his collar, and the fact that she had cast no reflection in the mirror behind her. Morning light filtered through the high stone arches of the Vatican guest residence. But Dr. Gabriel Thorne could feel no warmth. His hands trembled as he traced the bite on his neck, already healed unnaturally so. No fever, no wound, no bruising, just a pulsing cold beneath his skin, like something ancient now whispered in his blood. He told no one, not yet. Instead, Gabriel turned to the only lead he had. The mysterious Codex Sanguinam, mentioned briefly in a suppressed 15th century letter he'd found buried in the Vatican's censored archives. It was a name spoken in fear by those who dared write it at all, the Book of Blood Rites and Forbidden Saints. But it wasn't in the Vatican Library. not even in the secret archives sealed by papal decree. What he did find was a reference to a defrocked inquisitor, Father Mateo da Silva, whose writings had been purged after he publicly accused the church of canonizing monsters. Gabriel tracked the final clues to a sealed catacomb beneath San Clemente, where Mateo had once served. It was not listed on any map. It had no records of consecration. By torchlight, Gabriel descended into the crypt. Bones lined the walls. But these were not martyrs. The names were familiar. Saints long venerated in churches across Europe. Saints whose miracles were always unexplained. In a hidden chamber he found it. A wooden box bound in sinew protected by rings of salt and old Latin words. Inside lay the Codex Sanguinem. It wasn't written in one hand, but many. Dozens of authors, each from a different century. Some of the pages were written in blood. Gabriel flipped through the codex in horror. It listed names of saints declared holy by the church, but according to the codex, they never died. Their relics were not bones, but vials of still liquid blood, preserved steaks from heartwood trees' silver-lined teeth. One entry described a saint who drank the sins of others, literally, and was buried face down in chains. Every name was canonized. Everyone had a vampiric lineage. While Gabriel read, the city changed. Rome trembled in silence as a series of grotesque ritual murders swept through its oldest churches. Victims were found drained of blood, mouths stuffed with rosary beads, scripture burned onto their skin. The public heard nothing. The church suppressed the reports before they ever reached daylight. But Gabriel heard whispers. The old order had returned. A centuries-old secret militia formed during the First Inquisition. Their sole purpose, eradicate the undead. They'd once slaughtered whole villages to contain bloodlines. Their methods were holy, ruthless, silent, unquestioned. Gabriel tried to contact Cardinal Aldani. No response. He reached out to scholars, friends, even journalists. Each call ended the same: silence or disconnection. He was being erased. And then, one night, returning to his Vatican quarters, Gabriel found a message scorched onto his wall. No ink, only burn marks shaped like Latin script. The blood in you is older than the church. Run. Fleeing to the safety of the Institute's artifact vault, Gabriel began to catalog and digitize images from the codex. One page stood out, a watercolor image dated 1441. It depicted a regal woman in crimson robes, eyes black as night, with a golden halo above her head. She stood with her hand on the shoulder of a young man. His features were unmistakable. Gabriel, same sharp cheekbones, same eyes, same scar above the brow. But the image was 500 years old, and the woman beside him was labeled in red ink, Domina Sanguinis, Queen of the Blood. Before vampires, there were angels who refused heaven and were damned for choosing love. Gabriel's world collapsed in whispers and chains. The cruciform did not knock when they came. They descended in silence through the ceiling of the Jesuit library, black-cloaked and masked, armed with relics and holy writs long thought obsolete. He fought, but one touch of the silver-threaded chains drained the strength from his limbs and the thoughts from his mind. When he awoke, he was in Vatican custody, buried beneath St. Peter's itself. A torch-lit dungeon awaited him. Stone walls slick with ancient damp. He was stripped of dignity, but not of his name, for one among them recognized him. The cruciform interrogator, Father Castile Rook, did not see Gabriel as a man. He saw him as a mistake the church had tried to erase once and failed. You are a relapse of memory, Rook spat, a remnant of a blood that should never have survived Eden. Gabriel demanded to know the truth, so Rook told him. The first vampire was not born of sin or Satan. He was born of rebellion, but not the kind the church speaks of. His name was Suriel. Once an angel of knowledge and balance, part of the Watchers, those who observed mankind from the edge of heaven. When the great divide came, Lucifer on one side, the host of heaven on the other, Sariel refused to take a side. He would not bow to Lucifer, but neither would he condemn man. He believed that love should be chosen, not demanded. For that defiance, Sariel was cast down, not to hell, but to earth, alone and immortal. His angelic blood burned under mortal skin, and over time, it twisted. He began to remember too much. The garden, the first light, the names of the trees, the language of pre-sin. Sariel didn't drink blood to live, he drank to remember. And those he touched became like him. Not cursed, but awakened. Vampires were never monsters. They were the bearers of divine memory. The church could not allow them to survive, because if humans remembered what Eden truly was, the foundations of sin, obedience, and guilt would crumble. Gabriel listened, his soul unraveling. He wasn't just a scholar. He was descended from the blood of Sariel, a diluted remnant of the angel soul, passed down through forgotten generations, hidden in plain sight. Father Rook confirmed what Gabriel feared. He had never been fully human. His ability to interpret dead languages instinctively, his strange immunity to certain sacraments, the visions that sometimes came in dreams, these were not gifts. They were signs. Rook showed him the final proof, a sealed Vatican death certificate. It named a heretic burned in Paris 35 years ago. Her name was Lucienne Thorne, Gabriel's mother. Officially, she was executed for promoting Gnostic texts, but her body had been interred in chains upside down, with her heart removed and replaced by a silver relic. Her tombstone bore a symbol Gabriel had seen before in the Codex Sanguinum beside the names of the immortal saints. His mother had been Sanguinati, and the church had not only killed her, they'd hunted her. Some saints were canonized not for miracles, but for murder. The prison walls cracked with ancient hymns, soft voices echoing where no mouths moved. Somewhere above, Rome continued its sacred rituals. But beneath it, Gabriel Thorne was a secret the church could no longer contain, and they wouldn't have to. The crucifix above his cell split in two with a sharp metallic cry. From the shadows descended a figure draped in white, not like the cruciform, but ethereal, soundless. Her veil fluttered unnaturally, untouched by the stale air. Sister Adriel, the same nun who had bitten him, the one who cast no reflection. "Get up," she whispered. "A cruciform hunts blood, but they forget what it means when that blood remembers." With one motion, she pulled Gabriel from his chains. The metal sizzled as it touched her skin, but burned through like paper soaked in flame. They escaped through the burial crypt of Saint Calixtus, stepping over centuries of martyrs. But Adriel did not flinch. She walked these halls like she'd built them. And that's when Gabriel realized the truth. She had. In a safe house hidden beneath the foundations of the original Roman basilica, Adriel revealed her true name. Saint Adrian of the Flame, canonized in 1182 for surviving the burning of the heretic city of Carcassonne. She was declared a miracle. But the truth? She had burned it herself. Adriel was one of the last living Sanguinati, an ancient vampire who had once served the church, not as a monster, but as a weapon. The church had made a secret pact. In exchange for the blood of Sariel, they would preserve select vampires to serve the Inquisition, immortal saints trained to kill their own kind. It was the birth of the blood saints. And she had been their prototype. She showed Gabriel proof, scrolls sealed by 3 popes written in disappearing ink, stored in a reliquary beneath the Basilica di San Giovanni. Names were listed, names revered on stained glass across the world. These saints had not ascended to heaven. They had been fed, weaponized, and erased when no longer useful. And then Adriel confessed why the cruciform had returned. Gabriel, his blood was calling to something older than himself. The chalice, the one that bled in his hands, was not just sacred. It was a prison. It held not wine, not just blood, but the soul of Sariel himself. The angel had never truly died. Instead, to escape both heaven and hell, Sariel had split his immortal essence into relics, dispersing his memory across generations. The chalice was his final anchor, and Gabriel, his heir by bloodline, was the only one who could release or absorb him. This was why the cruciform had returned, not to stop vampires, but to stop Sariel from being reborn. And now the final bloodline, the last bearer of memory, was waking. Gabriel's dreams were no longer dreams. They were flashbacks. He had begun to remember things he'd never lived. Adriel warned him, "You are no longer one man. You are the gate." As they prepared to flee the city, Gabriel returned to the hidden vault beneath his quarters to retrieve the chalice. But the stone slab was broken. The chalice was gone. In its place, written in crimson across the wall, he remembers, "Soon, so shall all." Not all angels fell. Some chose to remember. Now memory returns with blood. Rome trembled under skies darker than night. Clouds hung thick and unmoving, the sun veiled behind an unnatural shroud. The cruciform had abandoned shadows. Their holy war was now public. Churches sealed their doors, cardinals vanished, and whispers of edivine heresy flooded the city like plague. But the Vatican didn't just fear exposure. It feared awakening, because the chalice had been taken, and it was calling to the last soul it remembered, Gabriel Thorne. Hunted and haunted, Gabriel fled with Sister Adriel, now weakened by centuries of hiding, and her final betrayal of the church she once served. She'd lost too much blood, but refused to feed. "If I drink again," she said, "I remember too much." Still, they followed the trail, not to a church, but to beneath one. In the heart of the ruins of the Temple of Janus, sealed beneath the Vatican centuries ago, they found it. A gathering of the cruciform, hundreds strong, led by Father K. Steele Rook, and behind him, the chalice, pulsing with light and shadow. Gabriel approached, unarmed. The blood in his veins hummed like a buried harp. "You want to stop this?" Rook shouted. "Then drink. Complete the cycle. Kill the lie. Destroy the memory. Unwrite Eden." Adriel tried to stop him. "If you drink," she whispered, "you are no longer Gabriel." But Gabriel no longer knew what that name meant. Every day he had drawn closer to something older than the world, a truth buried under centuries of doctrine and blood. He stepped forward and drank. Time shattered. Memories flooded him, but they weren't memories. They were echoes of divine thought. He stood at the edge of Eden, watching two trees sway in windless air. He heard the names of stars spoken by God before light. He saw Sariel standing between Michael and Lucifer, saying, "I choose neither of you." He saw humans created not to worship, but to love freely. He saw the lie forged when Eden fell, not because of sin, but because heaven could not accept disobedience born from compassion. And then he was back. But he was not just Gabriel anymore. He was Sariel reborn. His eyes opened, silver, not brown. His voice held the weight of eons. The cruciform charged, but they burned at his feet, not from fire, but from remembrance. The truth pouring from him unwrote their faith, melted their relics, and fractured every oath they swore in the name of obedience. Adriel fell to her knees, not in worship, but in awe. "You remember it all." Gabriel, Sariel, touched her forehead. "So will you." And she did. But victory was not peace. The world outside would not understand what had returned. A church built on curated history, on obedience and punishment, would not tolerate an angel who chose love over law, who remembered Eden as freedom, not failure. As the city wept blood from its statues and the skies split open with golden light, Gabriel knew this was not an ending. It was a correction, not the apocalypse, but a reformation written in blood. Sariel had never intended to return as a god. He had never wanted worship, so when he split his soul across time, he placed his final piece not in the chalice, but in a child. Gabriel was not just a vessel. He was the final choice, a man born of blood, memory, and defiance. Not a monster, not a messiah, something new. And the church would never survive what came next.